Hey, it's Mike with TechBB, and for my old, Alias friends that are out there, you guys know back a few years, the Alias has been and still continues to be one of my all-time favorite paintball guns that are out there. A lot of people have been hearing me talk about the 2000, or what I'm calling the 2009 model Alias. I was actually using this gun at PSP Chicago, and a lot of people had a lot of questions about it. So let's go and do an Alias Revisited show. We're going to do an Alias Supergun show, and I will tell you guys before we start the video, in my opinion, this is, I put this out there, the TechBB Awards, don't worry, they're coming. There's just a lot of material we're putting together, a lot of rewards we're giving out. This is one of the, or in my opinion, is the best all-time paintball gun. Out of all 21 years that I've ever been playing, in my opinion, the Alias is one of the all-time greatest paintball guns. First off, these guns were started coming out at the end of 2003. A lot of people are like, no, they didn't. They came out in 2004. No, they were out in the end of 2003. If you look at the magazines at the end of 2003, you'll start to see all the National Paintball Supply. They already had them advertised. They were in the stores at the end of 2003, and they started coming out early 2004 because I played a couple events in 2004 for PSP, and they were there at the National Paintball Supply trucks. So they were costing about $1,400 at the time. But the 2009 model, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and just talk about what comes on the gun and what I recommend on the gun. First thing, what they're doing, bone stock, is that Jason has changed the LPR design. Okay, they used to use a different LPR that was on here, the same one that they used for years. They've now gone and put the same LPR in here, pretty much that comes on the Vice and the Protege. It's almost exactly the same. It's shaped a little bit different. It's shaped kind of like a bullet, but it's the same design that comes on the Vice and the Protege. They're also putting the 360 regulators on these guns, which is pretty much one of the best regulators that's on the market. One of my personal favorite regulators that are on the market. Now, they're still coming with the collar, the swivel collar feed neck. I don't particularly like that. When I order them, what I ask from Matt at Bob Long is I tell him to put on here the collar neck that's on here. That works really, really well. The other thing, they don't come with ASA, so I asked them just to put the standard mark ASA. It's the same one that comes on the Protege and the Vice. Really nice, lightweight ASA. I also asked them to make sure they put on the adjustable ram cap on here. Now, the bolt that's coming with the guns is a pillow bolt, okay? So these are now coming with pillow bolts, which is really cool. There was nothing wrong with the old bolts, but it's always nice to get a free upgrade. And that's something I really like about Jason over at Bob Long, is that when they come out with an upgrade for a gun, he just gives it across the whole line. So they started making these Alias pillow bolts, and he's like, we'll just put them in the stock guns. The other thing I always request, always request, is I don't like the standard Alias trigger frames. I always like the Empire trigger frames. The Empire trigger frames, and let's go ahead and zoom in here. It's all about the Alias today. The Empire trigger frames, it's more of a square. Now, the best part about this is if you're putting in a Sith trigger design, it gives your fingers a little bit more room to walk. But the Empire trigger guards are different than the Alias trigger guards. It's what was on the rendition Alias. It's what I highly recommend the trigger guard to be on here. Now, I also asked for the Assassin's Bearing trigger. Nothing wrong with the stock Alias trigger, but the Assassin's Bearing trigger it just feels good. It's just nice and curved. It just feels good in the hands. It's easy to one finger when you're doing the burst fire. And that's about it. I always request to always get a smaller gauge on here. So, I always ask for a 0 to 160 PSI gauge. Now let's talk about settings that are on the gun. I typically like to run my Aliases at about a dwell of 9. It's been one of my favorite ones. A lot of people are like, well, why don't you run it at a dwell of 8? Well, usually I use my Aliases in a tournament, and the dwell of 9 just seems to be a little bit more of a consistent shot. It also prevents any sort of lube issues. It also prevents any sort of battery drain issues. It hits the poppet hard every single time, so I'm always guaranteed a shot. Sure, I could run it at 8. I could probably run it at 6 and go around and bragging to people, but I want consistency. I want reliability. I don't give a shit what my dwell is. I just want it to run reliable. I don't care if it's 6 or 600, as long as it runs reliable every single time. The dwell of 9 for me, always seems to run really, really well. Now, one of the boards now that I am recommending putting into these guns is the Tadal Yakuza. Badass little board. The Tadal Yakuza board's got the OLED screen, lights right up. It also does away with the membrane pad, as you guys saw. So we'll zoom in here a little bit, and let's go ahead and turn it on. There you go. Nice and bright display. Gets rid of the membrane pad here on the back. You've got a nice little double push button. So you go from 3 buttons to 2. But some of my other things that I tend to like to do on the guns is I take out the black screws and I put in a stainless steel screw kit. If you download the Alias manual from boblongdirect.com, he actually has the screw sizes that are on here. If you go on eBay, you can buy the screws for really, really cheap. And I replace all of the screws with stainless steel screws. Makes the gun look really, really good. Something else too, shameless plug. Check this out. These are the new Tech PB barrels that are over at ansgear.com. These are 14-inch 691 barrels made by Custom Products. 30 bucks, you can't beat it. It says Tech PB on it, helps supports the website. Badass little barrel. So here's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and do an efficiency test. And we all know these guns are pretty efficient, but we'll go out and do an efficiency test real quick, come back for Hey, what's up? It's Mike, and we're about to do the efficiency test on the Alias. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull the camera off the tripod. We're going to take a tank temperature reading. There we go. Now the reason why we take the tank temperature reading is because it's the internet and we deal with conspiracy theorists who think that we're freezing tanks to skew the results. So it looks like we're sitting right at about 110 degrees. Let's go ahead and take a look at the gauge. And gauge looks like we are sitting at just a smidge under 4,000 PSI. So it looks like we're at about 3,800, 3,900 PSI. So now what we'll do is we'll set the camera down here. And let's go ahead and load up our first pod, get our masks on. Let's see where we're at. Oops. Sitting about 285, so we'll bump this up just a little bit. Oh, looks like we might have gone a little too far. Let's go down just a smidge. Oh, still a little high. Let's try this again. Alright, so we're sitting right about 284. Let's go up a little bit more. There we go. I think we'll be happy with that. Hold that for a second. So we're going to set the camera back up on the tripod. And I apologize for our velocity being all over the place, but it's so humid out here and so hot out here. I mean, heat index right now is about 105, 110, so we got to kind of do it on the fly. And what this is up here, so everyone knows, this is just a Virtue crown riser. So we put this on here just to make it a little easier to feed. That's why this is on here. And the loader that we're shooting is the Invert 2. We haven't had any issues with this loader whatsoever. This has been such a good loader since we got it. Oh, it's dying out. Get another pod in there.
Another pod?
Yep. There we go, it's dying out. Alright, it's dying out. Let me see how much we had in here. It's about a half a pod?
Half pod.
Alright, sweet.
8.5 pods.
So we had 8.5 pods?
4. No, hold on, nope. 2, 4, 6, 7.5.
So we had 7.5 pods with the Alias Tadao Yakuza OLED board. We were shooting the invert 2 loader, shooting right at about 290 feet per second. Thank you. Okay, so as you saw, great efficiency. So why do I like the Alias so much? What makes this gun, in my opinion, so great? Well, the first thing is the shot on the Alias is just, you set the LPR at 80 psi. Don't run the Alias at any other LPR pressure other than 80 psi. I've tried it at 60, I've tried it at 70, I've tried it at 90, I've tried it at 85. Set your LPR pressure to 80 psi on your Alias. Don't even mess with it after that. Make sure it's always on 80 psi, you will have no problems. You know, set your dwell at 9, no problems with that at all. Nice, smooth, consistent shot. But what do I like? What's probably my favorite thing about the Alias? Well, one, it's one of the smoothest shooting guns that's on the market. As long as the people that own it don't do the crazy shit that I've seen people do where they dye the bolts or they do start putting aftermarket parts in these guns. These guns are designed for pretty much 100% Bob Long products. The products that Bob Long puts in these guns, you don't have to upgrade anything. You don't need an aftermarket RAM. You don't need, an aftermarket reg. You don't need anything. Just leave it alone. That's all you got to do with it. Just leave it alone. Put a 14-inch 691 barrel on there. Call it a day. What's the best part about the Alias? The best part about the Alias is probably one of the best laning guns that is on the market. Okay, it's one of the best laning guns I've ever seen. The reason why is when you're holding the gun, okay, and as you can see, I'm holding the gun. If I take my hands off, and now there's paint in here, okay, there's probably 230 rounds inside of this Pinocchio. But if I take my hand off and let it go, you're going to see the gun want to rise a little bit. Okay, so there it goes. It wants to rise. So when you're doing your breakout, the gun naturally wants to aim up at about 15 degrees. It's one of the best laning guns I've ever seen for paintball. Left hand or right hand. You come off the board and the gun just naturally lanes up at like 10 degrees and you just pick people off every single time you use it. I mean, I drill people going into the corners with the Alias more than just about any other gun I've ever shot. Another thing too, shooting while reloading, because it naturally wants to rise on you. As you're shooting, all you got to do is just hold it and you can just sit there and just one finger as you're doing the burst, and it stays perfectly still. Don't even have to hold it. Just keep pulling the trigger, dump your next pod in, and go back and start shooting. But you can basically use this gun with one hand, no problem at all, as you're running down the field, and it just stays perfectly flat. Oh God, I tell you what, if you've never experienced an Alias, call Bob Long direct. Take all the parts that I told you, get the pillow bolt, get the clamping feed neck, get a 14-inch 691 barrel, get the adjustable feed neck, put the Mark ASA on here, get the Tadao OLED board, get the Empire trigger guard, the Assassin's bearing trigger. I even sell a magnet trigger kit for these that works great, makes the trigger feel really good. But get all those parts and put it on there, set your LPR to 80 psi, set your dwell to 9 milliseconds, go out there and play with it, and you will see, you will experience an absolutely amazing gun. Don't waste your money on aftermarket upgrades or anything like that. Just leave the gun stock. You'll be really happy with it. Thanks for tuning in. Hey fellas, we're about to do the efficiency test on the Bob Long Alias. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get you a temperature reading. I'm going to show you how much air pressure is in the tank. Let's come on over here. And it looks like we're sitting right at about 113 degrees. Let's take a look at the tank. Tank looks like we're sitting right at about 4,000 PSI. I'm actually kind of excited about this test. This is going to be one of the first tests I've ever done in semi-auto, just because these guns shoot absolutely amazing in semi-auto. So let's go ahead and turn our gun on here. All right, let's go ahead and get some paint in here. Let's see how we do. Shooting a little hot, so we'll back it down just a smidge. So back it down off just a little bit. Coming down, let's go a little further. Looks like we went down a little too much. Let's go up a little more. I'm happy with that. Alright, so we'll go ahead and set the camera back up. And we try to get the velocity as close as we can before we start the test, but it just gets so hot out here that the velocity just changes so much, even within 20 or 30 minutes. So go ahead and take this, get on it. Go load it. Woo! Got some in there?
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, my fingers just ain't working today.
It ain't my fault. It ain't my fault.
Dude, my fingers are just like too fucking worn out here. We'll redo this. We'll redo this.
We've got 2, 4, 6, 8 pods left.
No sweat.
And with what we got in here, we may have another pod.
Fucking ants. Hold on here.